Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
Welcome to a very special edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. To my left, you know him as the head of NI Wrestling, but he is also one of our featured editors at Nerd Initiative Comics. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Rich.
I am super excited to be here. Obviously, I become the Turn a Page regular. Obviously, I should say now that I'm actually a co-host on the show. But today, this is one of my favorite books. These are some of my favorite people. Cannot wait to talk. This is going to be super fun.
Yes. If you are not familiar with the book we are discussing, by the time you're done with this episode, whether it's in video form or podcast form, you're going to be running to the comic shops. You're going to be running online to go check this out because this book has completely...
Oh, it's to be the man who walked 1,000 miles. Go get Pedestrian at your store. That's right, folks. Pedestrian, go get it. Do it. It's Eisner nominated. The deadline is coming up. If you can, you do the thing. Bye.
That was our only pop culture connoisseur, Tom, running in. And obviously, if you heard
Thank you, Tom.
He is pushing the book that we are saying here is one of the best books that have come out in the past year. It is one that has really transcended what you think about superhero comics and really carved its own niche about being a DIY project that stands out apart from anything else at the shops. And we are so fortunate enough to have the creators of this book on the line with us. You know the writers' work from such books as Batman Urban Legends, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and the upcoming kickers on Zoop. And the artist work speaks for itself from Ghost Planet and amazing covers for Ghost Machine, which you haven't picked up those variants. What are you waiting for? Seriously, they should be on posters. And the upcoming Cool Keith crossover into the Flower Cosmic. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Joey Esposito and Sean Von Gorman. Guys, what is going on?
Hey, thanks to everybody. I hate to be that guy, but we're not paying the license for the Proclaimer song. We don't have the cash for it. It was really nice of him to do it, but you've really put us in a pickle here.
I just want to point out that I don't know if you can see it because it's full of iced coffee, but I am drinking out of my Nerd Initiative glass today. So thanks for having us back. Not to suck up or anything, but you know.
We are Cheersies winners.
Yes, I was going to say.
That's true.
3-time Cheersies, Nerd Cheersies winners. Eisner nominated, Ringo nominated because, well, what can I say?
Should be nominated for everything.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I kind of gave away what I voted for. But it stands on its own because we are talking about Magma Comics, The Pedestrian. And guys, I mean, first and foremost, congratulations on the Eisner nomination. How did you first hear the news and what was your instant reaction to
that? Detonate Magma pulls us aside for an abrupt meeting, which was on. It's very rare, like he'll call a meeting that needs to happen that day. But he called it. He kind of started with a bunch of like innocuous half things that were just like facts. It wasn't like anything actionable, and then ended it with, "Oh, by the way, you guys are nominated for an Eisner."
Oh wow!
We thought we were being called to the principal's office, like that we did something wrong or there was bad news, but it was all just a misdirect.
It was more like we were called to the principal's office, and the principal gave us the keys to the school and said, "Okay, this is your school now."
That's amazing. And rightfully so, because like I say, this book has really stood out a part of its own. I know Rich has got a great backstory about how he actually got into this book.
So, making it a little personalized about this, so in June of 2024, not to get too sappy, I had a streak of bad news. I got diagnosed with diabetes, and literally the next day I got laid off for the first time in my life. So like it's got a kind of a weird situation, but out of that, I had talked for a while because I've done a lot of content for Nerd Initiative. I mostly do the wrestling content, of course, but I have filled in and did production stuff for comics. I had talked to Ken for a long time about doing different, getting into writing and doing reviews. So he's like, well, no time like the present since you have all this extra time on your hands. It was kind of his way of cheering me up. And so we started going through, and literally about a month after I started writing, I get a message from Ken, and he's like, hey, there's this really quirky, weird book that I think you will love. and I want you to review it. And he sends me the Pedestrian issue 1, and I'm like, huh. And I read it and instantly fell in love with the book. So, kind of like the journey now of me writing reviews for a whole year. I think if I didn't find the Pedestrian at the time, who knows if I would have continued to write reviews, because even going back to work and everything else. But on top of that, so the book kind of really means a lot to me. I covered every issue. I got to meet you gentlemen at New York Comic Con.
Yep.
I brought a nice variant cover that I bought at Midtown Comics to have you both sign. So that will be on display when I eventually am in my own studio and not just out here in the ODPH studio. But I just wanted to say this book was awesome. I had the personal story with it, and I feel like the connection to those stories is what's important, especially for indie comics. And that's why, I do most of the indie comics when I'm reviewing them. And I think that that's what I think people should get to know is the indie comics. I'm not saying that the big two or like the stories that have been around for 100 years aren't great. It's just that there's something that is like so personal to for different reasons about indie comics. So I want to thank you, both of you, obviously for making the comic, but also on top of that, encourage others to jump in the comments, throw in the chat, and tell personal stories, whether it be about the Pedestrian or what book really drove you to go to the stores and kind of inspired you in a way. So thank you, Jen.
Thanks a lot, man. That is awesome to hear and means a lot to us for sure. Thank you for sharing and picking it up, and I'm just over the moon to hear that kind of response. So thank you.
It's really great. It's really great to hear that level of support and that level of connection to this thing we've been grinding on for probably close to 6 years now, of something that we thought was cool, that we were like, okay, this thing should exist. And, making sacrifices from our lives and our pockets and our time and time away from our family and loved ones while we sit in the dark and put this together. And yeah, it's always great to have someone go on in length about how much they enjoyed it. I was in C2E2 a couple weeks ago, and a fella said, I came all the way from Canada because I heard you were going to be here today, and then just spoke to me for like 20 minutes about how much he loved the book, and then apologized for speaking for so long. And I was like, buddy, you braved the border in this time in America just to talk to me about Pedestrian. Like, this is kind of why I leave the house these days, of like, please continue, don't stop, get it out of your system, please. I will happily help you shoulder this burden.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. So with that, because maybe some people watching this is their first, I don't know how, because I mean,
I was gonna say,
here at Nerd Initiative, we have definitely carried the flag for the Pedestrian for the long haul. But how did the story come to be? You said it's been years in the making. So how did this story all come around?
So I had come up with this character design for a character called the Pedestrian, and thought it'd be really funny to do something where you have a superhero who's maybe not that particularly good at anything, sort of like a Flash type character, but doesn't run particularly fast, maybe just walks extremely well. And I had that, a title, and just a couple of bits, but not much more than what would probably be like a recurring, like maybe 3-panel sketch or maybe like a short comedy thing. And then remembering how great it was working with Joey on a book called Pawn Shop a couple of years ago, and how great Joey is at writing like rich, deep characters and building these interconnected stories. I thought it'd be really fun to reconnect with Joey and maybe see if he would, be interested in coming on board and helping fill out the world for this guy to live in. And I showed Joey the sketches and was like, would you be interested in doing something with this? And he was like, yes, immediately. He had ideas right away. And we were off to the races at late 2019, where we're like, yeah, we're gonna get around to this. We're gonna maybe do this little by little and build this up in our time. And then COVID happens and everything gets shut down. So we're like, hey, we've got some time. Let's go all in on this and figure this out. And we worked on it in secret for a year.
Wow.
We didn't show anybody. It was a complete creative vacuum, no ego, best idea wins. And by the end of that year, we had maybe two and a half issues of content. Of we were putting together as like a vertical web scroll type comic because we figured comic shows don't exist anymore. People are hurting. What do we do now? Well, so let's not worry about who's going to want this or who's going to buy this. Let's just make something that we enjoy and want to make. The making maybe this will make someone else happy out in the world who's also hurting right now.
That's incredible. And
It
it's
kind of felt like at the end of the Burgess Meredith Twilight Zone episode, time enough at last when, he just wants to read and then finally the world ends and he has time, except his glasses are broken. Except it was like a happier version of that. Granted, the world was terrible, but it did feel like, okay, there's time to just really focus on what we want to do and what's important to us. I mean, in all aspects of life, I think we all kind of dealt with that during the COVID shutdown, but really creatively, it was just like a nice reset to kind of realign our expectations and our goals. And I think that this book is sort of what came out of that. And so COVID overall bad, but
yes.
it did, help us create this book. So there's that, I suppose.
Well, it's, ultimately taking a negative and making it into a positive because, I mean, when everything shuts down, you have to do something. And
Mhm.
it kind of merges the creativity here that allows you to kind of take the risks like this. And especially like you alluded to, you've worked together on Pawn Shop before. Coming together for this, what do you think was the biggest difference in creating the pedestrian or working together than it was for Pawn Shop?
So for
We
Pawn Shop, oh, sorry, Sean.
sorry, we did not care about the rules and the expectations. This was a big kind of FU to the industry of comics. Of we're not for those of you who either know or don't know, a lot of times in comics, you put together as much of a comic as you can in like a small morsel of it and set the whole project and then shop it around and wait for a green light or permission to continue. And that's kind of held us back for a long time. And we're like, F everybody, we're making this. I don't know how this is going to work. It was kind of like that scene in Ghostbusters where Venkman just about makes makes Ray sell his family home on like 4 mortgages. He's got that wild look in his eyes, like I don't know. It was that type of energy of like, I don't know how this is gonna work. There's no plan B. We're gonna figure this out. Cut to we're nominated for Eisners.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out. But that I think that was a really important readjustment of our um approach to comics in that just like Sean said, not waiting for permission and just you were doing all this work anyway just to build like a little nugget of the book. Why don't we just make the whole book and figure out the rest later? But also sort of more in the weeds collaboratively. Pawn Shop was something that I was working on before Sean and I had met. So it was very like I was looking for a collaborator on that project, and that's how Sean and I connected, and it, became something that we're both proud of. But Pedestrian was more organic in that, Sean brought this character design, which inspired ideas, which inspired more ideas, and sort of talking about it. I hate to say the word holistically, but it was more born of conversation and back and forth. And just in general, everything is a lot more collaborative on the Pedestrian, which I greatly enjoy. Like I just sent him a giant document today for the next arc that I'm sorry is so long, but once he reads that and processes it, and then we'll talk about it and maybe tweak some things here and there, and that part of the process is really fun for me. So that's like the major difference, I would say, sort of on a more practical level between Pawn Shop and the Pedestrian for sure.
Right on. So we've mentioned it a couple times. Obviously, Eisner nominated. For most people watching the show, I would assume, or listening to the show on podcast form, I assume know what the Eisners are, but let's pretend some don't because maybe some don't. What are the Eisners, and how do you go about getting nominated / winning an Eisner?
So the Eisners are essentially the Oscars of comics. It's one of the highest honors you can receive in comics. It's something that was, we saw the time to apply had opened up. We had nudged Magma to put in an application for us, and lo and behold, we were selected to the Pedestrians selected as a nominee for Best New Series, which 2024 was such a stacked year of new books, books taking chances, especially with like DC and the Absolute Initiative and the All In Initiative, to have the Pedestrian along those books of like with a Jeff Lemire book and Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, um, and then the Power Principle. Like these are huge books that are wildly popular, as well as the Pedestrian. So I think it speaks to just how hungry people have been to have new comics and have new things to enjoy and not see the same names in the categories every year. So we're very excited to even just being nominated is a huge accomplishment. It's something that will live on with the project forever. Now, with that said, how do we win an Eisner? I have no idea. We have
Hoping for the best.
We do have a lot of friends in the industry. We've bothered every one of our friends in the industry with either an email or a DM at this point. We're so sorry, guys, if you're seeing this. But
No, don't be. No.
the thing that we're finding is comics is in such disarray right now. A lot of retailers are scrambling to figure out how to even get books. There's a lot going on. The world right now, we think there's probably not that many people paying attention to the voting window right now. And a lot of the people we're talking to who are fellow comic creators are not registered, or there's a whole wave of new creators with the rise of things like global comics and webtoons who are actually making comics and are not even aware that they may qualify. So if the Pedestrian is something that you enjoyed and want to see more of, and you make comics or work in anything comic adjacent, podcasters like yourselves could be classified as comic historians, teachers who have comics or graphic novels in their school libraries or use it in their lesson plans, librarians. There's a whole wave of people that may qualify and not realize it, where you can just apply on a Google Sheet. We'll throw the link down for you guys, either on the screen or below right here, where you have until May 28th to apply, and you might get an Eisner ballot where you can have a voice as to who is picked in this year.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It can't be understated. And there will definitely be the link, probably a QR code on the screen. Look for one of just look at the label, click it. It's going to be on the screen the whole time. But I mean, you can't underestimate the fact of just being nominated with who you're nominated around. Those are some heavy hitters.
Oh yeah, well, I think that just kind of goes into what you're saying about apologize for it. It's like, no, you shouldn't be. Like, this book truly stands there with anything else on the shelf, and it stands out for being so uniquely different that when you read it, like, it's so layered in many themes going on that, like, it's deceptive in its nature, but it's that damn good that when you get to the end of the story, you're like, you instantly want more. But as a reader, to get something different like that in your hands, more people need to know about it. And especially being an indie book, more people need that word of mouth. And I think the Pedestrian in the past year, I think, has been leading that charge because of the word of mouth. When we talk to fellow creators, when we talk to fellow fans, the more people are hearing about it, the more they're falling in love with this book.
Absolutely. And we're always surprised to see how well our campaigns have been doing. A lot of times you think you're throwing stuff into the ether, into the vacuum of space, and then sometimes the void answers back to say, "It was pretty good. Can we have some more?" And I was talking to Jeff Lemire at New York Comic Con last year, and we've been friendly on Twitter for a long time. I've done a number of like fan pieces way back of like Matt Kint, Jeff Lemire, Super Friends mashups
Okay.
on sketch covers, and he didn't remember any of those because I'm really sorry, I don't remember any of that. And then I go, oh well, I do this new book called The Pedestrian. He goes, oh really? That's you? Do you have copies? And it's like, whoa, you've heard of this? That's amazing. So we had our buddy Mr. Tony Nacho was brave enough to be the first official pedestrian cosplayer that same day. So he was hanging out at the booth in pedestrian wear, where I go, okay, Jeff, I'll be right back. So I run back to the booth and I go, hey Tony, I need a favor. I need you to bring this book over to Jeff Lemire. It's cool. He knows it's coming. I just need you to walk over, hand him this book, dressed as a pedestrian, and just kind of stand there for a second, and then just walk away and not say anything. And then you just kind of see that happen point for point, where like you see Jeff kind of look up, confused, and hands the book, and you see him say something. He doesn't say anything, just walks off, and then I swoop in like, how was that?
That's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, this is one of those books you know right away that it's different, and that's what drew me to it. Like instantly, like you're watching the first few pages, and you have this chase going down, and then the hero just stops because the light turns red.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of I've been doing like readings, so live readings in like a PowerPoint presentation of the first chapter, and I did it for 4 elementary school classes for my at my wife's school about 2 months ago.
Wow.
And that moment is such a universal moment of like 4 different like grades, like all were like invested in like the superhero aspect of it. Like, yeah. And then that moment drops, and then everyone's just like, what is this? This is something different. And I think part of like our grind has been we've been at shows with ash cans of just those 6 pages of that moment of this is what this book is. This is why this is different. And we sold maybe like either sold or gave to shops and pros 300 to 400 copies of that over the course of like 4 or 5 years post COVID. So the awareness of this book and seeing it pop up, there's the whole life that I don't think we really have a firm connection to the full fan base of this book, because people are always coming out of the woodwork like, oh my God, we love you guys. We're being recognized at shows. Joey and I were at Baltimore last year holding like one of the pedestrian standees, and like a kid was like, oh hey, the pedestrian, love that guy. And we're like, what? You know about this? Like, oh yeah, I've got it every issue. And we're like, where are those guys? And he was like, what? Like, who else would we be? Who else would be carrying this thing around? Like, we don't.
That's amazing. And but that's also those kind of connections that it's making, and the books really happen. And a lot of it is with the characters too. And this has such a wide array of characters. For both of you, when you were creating this, from going from issue 1 to where we leave off in issue 4, which character do you think really turned out the most different than it had originally started, like for where you had the vision of them?
Well, that's a great question. I feel like for me, in terms of writing, I think Randy was the departure from sort of where that character began. She was always sort of an overachiever in high school who's become a pizza delivery person, and that weighs on her, but her personality, I think, changed quite a bit over the course of things. And James as well, who's the sort of uh, ne'er-do-well kid who tries to mug Kira at the beginning. He's grown on me a lot, and I think he wound up more dimensional than he was created as, which I think is a good thing. But certainly as we work on future stories, that character in particular is becoming pretty integral to sort of like a character representation of the themes that we're exploring in terms of good and evil, and the choices that we make and how that you know, how it's not always just black and white. So yeah, those are the two characters for me that evolved the most once we really started digging in on it.
Yeah, James is like that, you know, random mugger guy that you see for the purpose of one scene to make the hero look good. They go to jail, you never see them again.
Mhm.
And then you go deep dive into why are you like this? What brought you to the state where you're roaming the night looking for a victim? Uh, for me, I think Sophie um, is a character that developed. I think she kind of started as just like a crossing guard in a scene, and then we really like deep dived of like, oh, what if crossing guards are secretly tapped into this whole world, and there's actually like a secret order of crossing guards who kind of get this because you need something. Because if someone is always following the rules, he's gonna need someone to like nudge him along. Like if you're like stuck in traffic and there's like a traffic cop out there, you can run that red light if a traffic cop is waving you on. That's legal. So we needed some mechanism in the world that would like help him navigate, you know, basic problems. But I think my favorite characters are by far the twins.
Yeah.
They're the emotional battery and energy that drives the story. Where you've got some kids that are just at the right level where they can kind of pick up on what's going on and go, okay, these are the rules. Yeah, this is a thing. Okay, let's do this.
Right on. So, with that being said, was there any ideas or themes that you both wanted to fit into the first run that didn't quite make the cut? And is there a possibility that that might be extended upon in the next arc, if you will?
Most definitely. Joey, as Joey mentioned, he sent me a very dense Bible where we've lots of wild ideas. We know roughly how it's going to end. This is basically just the first volume is really just the beginning of the story. We are going to continue. We haven't gotten the official green light, but we're slowly putting together things where we're starting to pull in covers and start working on because when the green light comes, we figure we're going to have to start hurrying really quick, which is also a reality of comics of like, wait 6 months, like, okay, we need it now.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of trying to be ahead of the game, but very, very weird places. We're only scratching on the surface of how weird this world is and how messed up this world already was. And we're going to go into some strange places. At the same time, we're also, you know, putting together a media pitch. So we're also expanding sort of like the thought process of these stories and trying to translate it into a way where hundreds of other people can come in and put their spin on different levels of the project and have it still retain the basics of what this is and how to do what we did in this book, but in like a more visual audio metaphysical medium as television, movies, that type of thing. So we've been doing a lot of work quietly behind the scenes, but we've got a lot coming for you guys.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're all excited about that too. And especially with how you've been marketing the book too. Like when we had those infomercials going on, they've been absolutely brilliant. And I know you have the new threadless store that you're rocking those very, very cool jackets on. When you're going into the process about promoting this, like what has been your favorite piece that you've done thus far? Or is there something like dreamless, like you want to do for promotion for this?
Um, it, it's really just a matter of money, but I would definitely want to expand on a lot of these ideas. A lot of the things that we've been doing is we have some time for a little bit of money and something that would capture the feelings that we have about it. I would love to do more animation. I would love to put together more toys. Um, if we had some more time, I wanted to do another toy commercial where during the pandemic, I got into like one six scale figures, and that's where this guy came from. And we made a toy commercial with these guys, and then I got into like 112 scale things, like the Mezco one things. I just got the it's here somewhere. I just got the Junkyard Joe Ghost Machine figure, so that's a whole different scale, which is even harder to do. So I thought it'd be really funny to, like when you have toy commercials, you have like these ancillary things of like not anything to do with it, and that's where that second toy commercial of the Power Rangers space shooter
Mhm.
came into play, and we thought it'd be really funny to do another one where he has like, now here's his car. Passing through the wall, the pedestrian mobile, vroom, vroom, and it has missiles, and it's like that. It's probably going to be like that one car that I think came out for, if I'm not mistaken, James Bond Jr. That particular car, and then it got repackaged over and over again for different properties. I think it was that, it was the Mask Mobile, and then you see it pop up again for like I think Double Dragon had that same car as well, where it was a great design that they just slapped different stickers on and made it different things. Where it had like these missiles and like these things that popped out of the wheels.
Yeah.
Taking that, like repainting that, and like throwing a pedestrian figure in there. It's like, now he's got a car for no reason.
I love the toy stuff too because sort of on a conceptual level, I look at them and sort of those pieces that we've made in that way as like an ad for a cartoon adaptation of the comic that doesn't actually exist. Like in a world where you think of the original Ninja Turtles comics and then what the cartoon was, and those are things that are very, very different.
Yeah.
But what we know in pop culture is mostly the cartoon stuff, even though I could be wrong, but I don't remember them having like a turtle van or a pizza shooter in the original comics. So like thinking about what would that kids cartoon adaptation of this character be, and what would the toys be based on that cartoon that doesn't actually exist? And that's sort of how I look at these things, which I think is a lot of fun. Um, not entirely a one-to-one advertisement for the book itself, but I just think that makes it funnier and more interesting. So yeah,
Definitely. I mean, and of course, the character lends itself very well to toys. Let's be honest.
for sure.
It definitely is noticeable. So we kind of, I'm gonna change my original question here a little bit because obviously we've talked. We know that you've now sent over the large document and everything like
Mhm.
that. So the question now is is there a time frame to return to Summer City at this point in juncture? Do we have any kind of like maybe like loose one? I'm sure you don't have an exact date, but.
I really hope it's sometime this year. For those of you who don't know, the pedestrian has returned a little bit in some books. We did a comic style newspaper strip for Zdarsky Comic News that came out a couple of months ago. That was kind of like a prequel to that first scene where we kind of build up that first scene a little bit. And there's a brand new pedestrian short in Mad Cave's LA Strong anthology that came out. I know it's sold out at the distributor level, but you can still find copies where there's a brand new two-pager in there. And really, I mean, Magma has been very forthcoming about where they are. They're a smaller publisher. They have not been immune to the wild, wild fucking changes that have been happening like on a daily basis on the basic structure of distributing books. Like Diamond, people have been complaining about Diamond for so long, but they were the bedrock of getting books to stores, and thousands of books don't know how to get their books now because a new corporate structure has either come in with Lunar, which is, it's still a new company. It's not perfect, but it's something that needs to really tear up in order to fill that void. And as well as like things like Penguin Random House have come in with like a real corporate structure that a lot of shops were not living under.
Mm.
In terms of like when they get paid for the books, when publishers get paid for the books, there's a bunch of different rules. It's a lot more rigid, and it's making things harder for comic shops. And they are right now in real time figuring that out. So we're understanding of this. Things are developing. Work is being done. We are going to be at San Diego, so hopefully we have some answers before San Diego. But we'll be boothed up with Magma. We'll be at a table at the Eisners. So we're very hopeful we have some news in the next few months. But as Joey mentioned, we are working on it, and by some means, it's either going to be a TV show or it's going to be another book. But there's going to be more Pedestrian, hopefully this year or hopefully next year, the latest.
Nice. And with the characters, obviously, we're waiting to see what they're doing next. Is there a favorite character that you love working on for both of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the Pedestrian has been, let's just do whatever we want. And a big part of that was throwing in an abandoned pitch called Laser Titans, where we wanted to do everything we love about Power Rangers, because we figured no one would ever let us do Power Ranger stuff. So we were like, let's do what we want to do in Power Rangers and just get that out there some way. But then we got held up by waiting for permission to do more. So we did 6 pages 10 years ago. Then we're like, fuck it, let's just throw Laser Titans in the Pedestrian, whatever. So that's been a lot of fun to get that out of my system. And just even on the Pedestrian, lots of new opportunities have come up for me and Joey. A lot we can't talk about yet, but a lot of the stuff that you're seeing now, like the Cool Keith book, we're out working with Esoteric of Czarface, has been great. There's another project on the horizon that we're in contracts for. That would be something a little bigger with another company like that. And as you mentioned, like the Ghost Machine stuff has been really great to work on. I think I've done maybe 8 covers now for Ghost Machine, and that's been a really great company to work for. Brian's been really great about being open to collaboration, and everything I've done with that has been a lot of fun. And the Ghost Machine fans do not play around.
Yeah.
They are ride or die. And shout out to all the Ghost Machine fans out there. I've got tons of original art if you want it. Of like Geiger and I think they just revealed a new High Treat cover where it's like Mr. X-Ray's glasses you can cut out and wear. So my devious plan of that was you have to buy 2 of this one because you're going to cut one up. And the one you have is going to become more rare because you had to deface the other one to get the glasses.
Very smart. I will say this, just to be a little self-serving here. I actually review Geiger for Nerd Initiative, and so when your variant covers have been on, I've always used them for my image. So it's been kind of like one of those like slipped in Easter eggs if people haven't caught on to that.
Yeah, that was my first one, and whenever I come into a new company or a new license, I always try to do something like really distinct and timeless, and that was a really fun one, and that was, I think, one of the best covers I've done in my career. And then now Jeff Johns knows I exist, and he's a fan of the Pedestrian, and he's been very supportive. As just a general comment about working with Ghost Machine. A lot of times when it's like a new publisher or like a smaller publisher, like an imprint, there's a big mob mentality. Like I think there's a correlation between the comics boom of the 90s and the film Goodfellas being popular around the same time. But I think all comics has like a mob mentality of like how we handle things, of like, we got the books, we're making money hand over fist. If you betray us, you don't get the books anymore. I think that's kind of like lingered in comics for a long time. That's starting, like only now starting to phase out a little bit. Like Diamond was very like Italian mafioso in terms of the Giuseppe family running Baltimore. But Ghost Machine has been a very like fun, challenging, of course, because you're doing work for your heroes and people who are at the height of their powers, making a new imprint. So it's like when you're coming at these guys, like there's no arguing when they disagree. Like I got like I sent in a sketch for a book Brian Hitch is working on, and he sent me like a layout sketch that is like way tighter and better than any of my tiniest pencils, of like, oh, you should do it more like this. So it's like, oh my God, I have to take this challenge. It's like, this would make a great Brian Hitch sketch. I don't know if this would make a great Sean Von Gorman cover, but Sure, gonna try, Mr. Hitch. And everyone who I know has been working there has just had a very high quality of life. So just I want everyone to know that when you support Ghost Planet Books and when you're getting those books from your shop, it's going to a company that's doing the right thing in a lot of ways that I think needs to be addressed and known.
Yeah, Ghost Machine has been great to us, even on like what we do. We got to, meet up with them a few different times, interview a few different times. They've always been very,
Very gracious.
coming in, very willing to give. It's been very good. They're awesome. I agree that they're a great company and that definitely should be supported by everybody.
Yeah. Joey, how about you?
I don't remember what the original question was. Sean went off the rails.
No problem. So obviously, when you get back to the series, who is the character?
Oh, who's the favorite character? Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Writing the twins is really fun because it's sort of more jokey and more of a almost like Ditko Spider-Man-esque kind of vibe. But my favorite character to write is Uncle Joe slash spoilers, Uncle Joe slash the Clutch Commander, who's just like so unhinged and a lot of fun to write. It sort of gets to tap into some horror stuff, and writing villains is just usually more fun in general. So he's definitely one that I think is a standout for me in all the worst ways because he's terrible, but it's a lot of fun.
So that makes for the best characters, though.
I agree. Yeah. And he'll have some good stuff in the future for sure.
Absolutely. So, little curveball question because I usually get there, but it's going to mention something because obviously, Ken mentioned earlier on, Joey, you have written a book for Zoop that was available on Zoop, Shit Kickers.
Mhm.
Now I can say it. We're
Yes.
out of the first 10
Oh, we're
minutes.
out. Okay, good.
So when you're out of the first like 5 minutes on YouTube, you can actually get away with it. There we go. So, so having it has its own song. So if you don't know, it has its own song. And of course, Sean, you're working on a cool Keith music inspired book as well. So let's say the Pedestrian had a playlist on Spotify. What would be each of your top picks for the songs that would be on the Pedestrian playlist?
Ooh.
I can tell you this exactly because I have a pedestrian playlist.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Here we go.
But I will say this is like I make a playlist for every project that I'm working on. It doesn't always translate to like this is the music that you would hear if you were like reading this or watching this. This is sort of more my own internal thing. So I don't want to speak for Sean because I think his answers would be different. But I can tell you exactly what my pedestrian playlist is.
All right.
I will. There are a few songs that kind of run through the playlist that I'll post over and over again. Songs that sort of like I've heard so many times I can kind of like drown them out, but like keep coming back to. One in heavy rotation for issue 4 especially was Gerard Way's "Don't Try." It was like a Japanese B-side that kept popping up on the playlist, and Spotify says that was my favorite song of that year when I was working on that book. And I think the the John Williams Superman soundtrack was popping up a lot because we definitely handled Pedestrian with the gravitas as one would a Superman book of like we treated him as seriously as we were working on Superman. He is our Superman in the sense that what do you get when you take away all the superpowers from Superman? You just have someone who's just trying to do the right thing all the time. And that's what the Pedestrian is, and that's what we think people are really latching on to and picking up in these really wild times where it seems empathy is being seen as a sign of weakness, and it's really not. It is not a weakness to not want the people that you don't like to suffer. It's not weakness to, just want everyone to have the opportunity to lead a good life and to be happy. It doesn't really affect your life if other people you don't like are being happy. You don't have to go to their party. You probably weren't invited to their party. And that's probably why you're mad in the first place.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Excellent point.
Where's my invitation to Pride? Ugh.
So, sorry, Joe.
Joey.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm because I'm very excited about this question because I tried to post like some playlist stuff when the books were coming out. No one really seemed to give a shit, which is fine. But I personally, this is like music is a huge part of the way that I work. And for Pedestrian in particular, the band Wipers was a huge influence here. A lot of their, especially their early records, are very, I don't know, just capture that sense that of like being stuck somewhere and just like trying to work your way out of your hometown and like that sort of vibe, which is very much front and center in volume one. So their music was a big influence. So they appear multiple times on my on my playlist, particularly the song Doomtown. Um, Also present on my list. I'm just going to run through them real quick. Husker Du, Pink Turns to Blue. The Susie and the Banshees cover of Helter Skelter. Devo's Gates of Steel.
Nice.
Talk Talks Today. What else we got? Misfits, Mommy Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight? We've got some Elliott Smith with Say Night's Heaven. One of my particular favorites is Madonna, Into the Groove, which is what I imagine the fight scene at the beginning of number 4 is set to.
That's perfect.
And we also got some Local H, some Psychedelic Furs. It's a pretty eclectic playlist, but in my mind, it really works to give sort of a sonic representation to the themes that we're doing in the book. So I can share this list with you if you're interested.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely interested. Yeah,
but
I didn't see it the first time, but I'm definitely interested in that.
I didn't go with like for example, I would walk the Proclaimers song. Like I sort of turned away from doing songs about walking or whatever.
Because
So
it's
this
too
is
perfect. It's too on the nose.
it's on the nose, but also works, I think works well in marketing. And then this is for like my own internal uh emotional spectrum of the characters in the book. Which sounds very pretentious as I'm saying it out loud, but I hope you take my meaning.
It's in the trailer for the movie, but doesn't actually appear in the movie.
There you
Like
go. Yeah,
Unforgiven didn't appear in The Crow, but it was in all the trailers.
there you go.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
great point.
But with that being said, though, it doesn't sound that way because like you're using your playlist you're using for the creating portion of it.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
what you would use to promote the movie, or in this case the comic book, like you don't always see in the trailer. It's it's
Yeah.
what you're or in your head because that's not what you're going with. You're like, oh, what's the best song we can go? Obviously to the point earlier, the Batman using Nirvana.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things that I'm not sure that they wrote the movie where somebody was listening to that. They probably weren't, but they were like, oh, this is really badass to put on to the trailer. So let's do
Yeah.
that.
For sure.
It's the difference,
Totally.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last question we have lined up is we're nearly at the year anniversary of the Pedestrian.
Oh my
For
God.
each of you, what has been the biggest memory or memories on this entire journey?
Joey, I'll start this one. We kind of started of like from a place of we really hope people like this. We really hope some people buy some copies, and then we're now at a point where people are showing up dressed as the character and having me sign them. So, we've been in a moment this past year. Since the first issue came out, we've leveled up a few notches in terms of where we are in terms of being recognized as artists and the work that we're putting out and the type of work that we're getting, and we're very appreciative, and we're really trying to just savor this moment because we can feel in real time the change that's happening around us, where we've always presented ourselves as rock stars. We've always embraced the world as rock stars. Whereas, what does that mean? It's like being like Jesus. It's humble yet divine. It's like, oh, thank you so much, but I'm just going to excuse me while I just walk on water. Pardon me a moment. And now it's like, oh, you guys are rock stars now. It's like, hold on, wait a second. We've always been rock stars. You're just catching up. That's your problem.
Well said.
That's perfect. Joey?
Yes to what Sean said. But it really is just feeling there's like this like things like you said earlier about what the book means to you are very impactful for me personally, just at a level of like we have been working at this for a long time as many people do. You know, a lot of the work that is done is sort of like underneath the ocean, and you just kind of the end result is the tip of the iceberg, and then everything underneath is like all of the manuscripts and scripts and pitches that went nowhere, and like emails and pitches that you went for jobs you didn't get, and all that kind of stuff is beneath the surface that most people don't see. And so to have this book come out and be well received is just it's validation in a lot of ways, but it's also kind of like, see, I told you I could do this. You know, like I tried to tell you 15 years ago. That being said, like I don't think either of us could have made this book, you know, until we ended up doing it, which is also a lesson that I've learned in this past year is like learning to appreciate how far I've come in both, you know, skill and ability, but just in turn, but even in my own being in my own skin as a person, I feel like this book and this experience has helped me a lot in that regard and sort of understanding my value as a person, but more so as, you know, a creator and what I have to offer. So it's just been really validating, I guess, is my long-winded response. But yeah, so it's hard to pick a particular moment. It's sort of cumulatively, this feels like a very specific moment this last year that we've been working towards for a long time, and it finally feels like, okay, I was right to commit my life to this, and let's see where we can go from here.
Yeah.
This type of notoriety and attention would have been debilitating back in 2013.
For sure. Yeah.
That's just awesome. And like I said, you guys have done such awesome work, and it's great that, you know, it's being recognized, which is really great. Of course, we didn't even recognize the fact that Sean has probably the greatest acceptance speech in the history of the Cheersies.
Yes.
Let's be honest. It's not even close. I don't know what somebody else is going to have to do to top it at this point in juncture. But
Thank you. I deserve this.
yes, yeah. So hopefully next year we'll get another one. So that way, you know, maybe we'll just let you, even if you don't win, we'll just let him win something, just because, you know, like we can just have the you didn't vote for me, so now I'm taking back all this
Just
stuff.
make the Sean Von Gorman of Comics Award.
Yes,
And it
there
just
it
goes
is.
to Sean Von Gorman every year.
Every year. It's a great legacy award.
We've had a lot of fun with this Sean Von Gorman character that I've cultivated for the past couple years, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of fantasizing about the end of Hedwig and the Angry Inch, where he takes off the wig, puts on someone else, and just kind of walks off in his underwear. It just, and just start I see that as being my future.
I love it. But before you go, I want to say we are like a little over 24 hours away from the end of the voting for the Eisners. Let's get one final push in there to the people who might not know that they can register and vote. Give the push. Why is the pedestrian? Well, I can tell you why the pedestrian should win, but why do you? This is your book.
The pedestrian is, you know, with respect to everyone else running in the category, there are major publishers putting their backs behind established talent. We are by far the underdogs of this race. If you're looking for the underdog, woof woof, you found him. That's us right here. We're scrappy, we're hungry, we're looking to shake things up in a big way and disrupt, you know, kind of the norms that comics has fallen into. We're seeing other companies kind of scratching on the surface of that with Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, fantastic books that are reimaginings of something that has been around for 80 years. If you want the next new American comic character, that's by far the pedestrian. There's never been anything like it or even close to it since the late 80s, early 90s. If you if you love the feeling of something new that you can latch onto, that is yours, the Pedestrian is a character who, he's nonverbal. There have been people who are starting to pick up on the autism coding there. And there's something different about this guy. He doesn't speak. He can only be judged by his actions. And he's kind of a blank slate that you can pin your hopes and dreams onto. And we think with your help and the help of anyone eligible to vote who signs up today or early tomorrow and can really push this, we can really plant a flag of like showing the world that the world is not only ready for this character, but really needs more stuff like this. And a win for a book like this would really open the doors for a lot of other creators who are listening right now who would like an easier avenue into mainstream comics of like, again, we've been crawling and grinding for 6 years so that others can fly.
Well said.
I would echo what Sean said, and also just in terms of, we're really passionate about creator-owned comics, and we see all the time how longtime iconic comic creators are funding their medical care on GoFundMe and things like that. And I think the start of changing that is by supporting the original work of these creators that they have ownership stakes in, and that's not like, I love the corporate characters. I enjoy working on them, but at the end of the day, it's not something that I own or will really contribute to my long-term health and care. And only creator-owned work is something that can support that sort of future insurance, so to speak, in this world. So I think supporting creator-owned comic creators and their creator-owned works in any capacity, but especially, voting for us in this huge award ceremony is a huge step forward in general. I hope, and maybe that's self-important, but I feel strongly about it, and this seems like an opportunity to let the rest of the industry also underscore the importance of that notion,
No, absolutely. I think the one thing that really stands out about you being on the ballot is right now there's so much creativity in the comic realm and like what we think of when we say superheroes. And what you've done with Pedestrian has really been, for lack of a better term, game changing because there's so many elements involved. And this is why this book has really taken off amongst the fans. It's the word of mouth, and it's really spread to where it's up there and it deserves to be in that echelon when you start talking about the Batmans and the Supermans and the Spider-Mans and et cetera. It really stands out, but it's also based on the passion that you can sense in the pages. That there's so much DIY. We want to do this. We want to prove that heroes like this matter and heroes like this deserve to have a spotlight shown on them. And voting for them in the Eisners is a true statement. And I think if you have the opportunity to, you should really consider it. And if you're not familiar with this book, I can't stress enough, go check it out at your comic shops, go check it out online, wherever you can find it. We have links throughout this episode. If you're not sure where to go, DM us. We will point you in that right direction because we need more Pedestrian on the shelves and in the future. We need to make this as big as possible because it's that damn good.
I mean,
thank you so much.
I can't stress the fact that, I mean, obviously we have two different copies here. It's not the same copy, which is kind of interesting. But and they were purchased. Like, it's not like we were like, hey, send us a copy so we can interview. But the thing is, I not only have reviewed every one of these books, so I've got to see them, before they came out. I own every issue. I own, obviously, the trade paperback I brought today. That's how much I love this book. That not only did I read them, not only did I write about them, but I also purchased them. So that should tell you right there. And I don't think that it was self-serving to want the votes for the Eisners because it is very important. The fact that you guys even got a seat at the table with all those other books that are obviously been around 80 years for some of them, 30 years for others, these big, that says something because there must have been, not must have, there is enough of a groundswell behind the pedestrian that at least it got the seat at the table. But now that's not enough. Let's win. like that's important.
And speaking of the other books, we all love Tom King. We know everything Tom King touches turns to gold. He was kind enough to do a pedestrian sketch for us at Baltimore Comic Con last year that we included in the trade paperback, and we didn't tell him about it. And he found out about it at Chicago last year. Someone came up to his booth to have him sign it. He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, you did this right." He goes, "Son of a bitch." So, if we're on a path for Tom King having 4 Eisners possibly, why not make it 5 and vote for the pedestrian as well?
Technically he's there, so that's true.
I was going to say technically there, but we want to make sure you guys get your first and hopefully many, many, many more to come. Guys, we can't say thank you enough for coming on the show. You're always welcome back anytime. We can talk some shop here with you.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate all the kind words, and my head is ballooned appropriately. So thank you.
I can go for another hour if you have time.
Well, definitely we'll keep it in mind for next time because obviously we can talk pedestrian all day, but we can't stress enough wherever you're watching this, wherever you're listening from, check the liner notes, make sure if you can vote for this, get on it and make it happen. And let's really finish that story and really give the first year of the pedestrian a true amazing birthday present. And then obviously kick off year 2 with many, many more stories to come. So that said, on behalf of Rich and myself, we'll end it like we always do on Turn a Page. When you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue in your hands, such as The Pedestrian by Magma Comics by Joey Esposito and Sean Von Goran, and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand them a copy. Tell them to turn a page. We'll see you next time.
I'm out.